Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we've got a beer that I'm really quite interested in. So for this one we're going to do a collaboration between Omnipollo, one of the Swedish gypsy breweries, and Evil Twin Brewing, who started off as a Danish gypsy brewery but are now kind of Brooklynites, if that's such a term. And this one is called the Pink Lemonade IPA. So it comes in at 7% ABV. I think it's going to be a kind of sour beer, this one, but it's an IPA that they've added lemon and raspberry to, so it should be really nice. Omnipollo, of course, are known for producing these beers that have really kind of weird flavours to them, these big cakey imperial stouts and things like that, and we know that Evil Twin Brewing are a very, very solid brewery as well. So looking forward to this one. I should point out as well that Pink Lemonade is one of my favourite soft drinks. It's basically a glass full of diabetes for those of you that have not tried it, but I really enjoy having that when I go to America, and I do wish we could get more of it over here in Scotland and England, and in Sweden of course as well. It would be really cool. But yeah, I'm surprised the Swedes don't have it actually, because you know, you go to like Hemikväll and things like that and you just wonder why that's one of the very few things that they don't have. But it should be a really interesting beer, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on it. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about both the breweries involved here. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my future reviews and my other reviews that I've done both from Evil Twin Brewing and from Omnipollo. No doubt will be born from both in the very near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There are ones there for my Swedish, Danish and American beers. Those are all of the countries that are relevant to this one of course, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Evil Twin first off then. So Evil Twin are a Danish gypsy brewery that was founded by Jeppe Jarnik Bjergso, who is the twin brother of Mikkel Bjergso, the big boss of course over at Mikkeller. But they were founded back in 2010, and they were largely inspired by the lack of craft beer in Denmark at the time. But Jeppe began homebrewing in the same beer group that gave birth to Mikkeller and later Toøl as well, and he went on to found his own beer shop called Ølbutikken in Copenhagen, which I believe is still going on. I think he still owns some of the different shares of it as well, but I'm not too certain about that. I think he might have sold most of it on. But he also started an import business that was attached to the shop, and he used this to import American beers into Denmark. He was one of the first actually to do that over there, but he later decided that it would be fun to sell his own beers in the shop, and this also distributed the early Mikkeller beers as well. But Jeppe agreed an import deal with 12% imports to send his beers over to the US, and he later followed with his wife in 2012, and they based the Evil Twin Brewing Company offices in Brooklyn in New York. But their beer is now brewed at a variety of host breweries. They brew some of it in Denmark, most of it's brewed up in Connecticut in America, and they've also brewed some of it in Scotland as well. I think they might brew some of their beers at the Deproof Brewery in Lochristenhoofde, just outside Ghent in Belgium as well, which is where a lot of the Omnipollo, Toøl and Mikkeller things are brewed as well. So I think they do brew some of their beers there, but most of them are actually brewed up in Connecticut, if I'm remembering correctly. But a really interesting brewery. They produce some really good beers, and if you haven't tried some of them already, I do recommend that you check them out. And it's always cool when they're getting involved in experimental things like this. But anyway, on to Omnipollo quickly before we taste the beer then. So Omnipollo was founded back in 2011 by Henok Fente, who was a long-time home brewer, and Carl Grandin, who was a clothing designer. And apparently the two just met one day and they started talking about the kind of insular craft beer scene in Sweden, and they thought that they wanted to kind of reinvigorate it both from a stylistic point of view and also from a gastronomic point of view as well. So they said that this kind of partnership between a clothing designer and a home brewer was really quite logical to them. So the name of the brewery is derived from omnipotent chicken, so Omnipollo, pollo of course Spanish for chicken, and these guys are gypsy brewers, so they don't have their own brewery as such. Most of their beers, from what I remember, a lot of the big stouts and things are brewed at the Duyes Brewery, which is down near Gothenburg, and they brew a lot of their beers over at Lochristenhoofde at the Deproof Brewery in Ghent near Belgium as well. But they're currently exporting to quite a few different countries. They're always growing, and they also have the Omnipollo's hat in Stockholm as well, which is a collaboration bar that they've done with Pizza Hut, and it's become really quite popular. Apparently down there you can get a lot of the Omnipollo beers and some really nice pizza to go with it, so I'm definitely going to check that out when I go up to Stockholm in April. See if I can convince my dad that we go along to Omnipollo's hat. That's somewhere that I really really quite want to go. But yeah, two really interesting breweries in this one. Omnipollo, of course, like I say, famous for doing all these different flavoured beers. They do flavour essences and things like that with their brewing, which is a really interesting technique actually. But like I say, probably my favourite beer that I've ever had from these guys was the Yellow Belly. These big cakey imperial stouts are really what Omnipollo have become well known for. But the regular beers, like the Nebuchadnezzar, is a really, really nice double IPA as well. They do some really good stuff, so have a go at their beers and see what you think. But that's all you need to know about the two breweries just now. As I say, the brewery websites are in the description below for you to have a look at, and we'll get on to the tasting of this one itself now. So on the side here it says, a refreshing drink often associated with childhood nostalgia, to others a pop cultural symbol of emancipation. Whatever the association, we teamed up with good old Swedes Henrik and Carl of the fashionable Omnipollo to squeeze out a tasty, tempting and deceivingly well balanced IPA with sweet and sour notes of old-fashioned memories. Perhaps you can taste the dishonesty, it's all over your breath. It's Lemonade, brewed for Evil Twin Brewing by the Dorchester Brewery in Boston, Massachusetts. So this one is actually brewed in Boston rather than up in Connecticut. Quite a lot of the beers are brewed in Connecticut, of course, but there's the artwork on this one. I'm just checking on the camera that you're seeing that. I'm not sure who that is. I'm not sure if that's maybe Carl Grandin or if it's or maybe it's Jeppe Bjergso actually. I think it might be Jeppe Bjergso, so do tell me about that in the comments below if you know exactly which one of them that is. It's definitely not Henok Fenty anyway, but yeah, there you can see the Omnipollo badge on the top there. There's the Evil Twin one, but yeah, nicely presented, nice artwork on this one. So without further ado then, let's get it out and get on to the tasting. A little bit of smoky opening, and let's get it out then. So yeah, an interesting colour this one. Not quite pink right enough, but I suppose it'd be really quite difficult to get pink in the beer, but you can see a little bit of that kind of raspberry colour just coming through. But yeah, in fairness, I think it's fair to say this beer is a nice kind of almost matte, it's almost like a peachy colour. There's a solid finger of a frothy kind of beigey, no, not beigey colour, quite a cream coloured head on this one. It's not perfect white, I would say, more of a kind of creamy colour. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of the glass there. If I put my fingers behind it, you can see it is pretty much completely opaque. There's not much in the way of transparency to that beer at all. You can smell some of these nice raspberry and lemon tart notes coming off the top of it as well. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah. On the nose, this one definitely smells like a sort of sour beer. You can smell a little bit of the kind of IPA notes underneath. There's a little bit of an almost biscuity and kind of bready character. There's almost a little bit kind of lactosey as well, which is quite interesting. But yeah, the tartness from the lemons and the raspberries really comes out. It doesn't smell exactly as I remember Pink Lemonade smelling, but you can get that nice kind of sort of nostalgic smell from the raspberries and the lemons in this one. Come out really nicely. It's definitely got a little bit of biscuity underlying to it. You can smell a little bit of that, of an almost lactosey character as well, like I was saying. There's a wee bit of a citrusy note to this one. Maybe there's a wee tiny touch of orange or something like that. But yeah, some nice sort of grassy and floral notes as well. It's not the most pungent beer that I've come across either from Omnipollo or from Evil Twin, but it does smell really quite nice. It pretty much has what you would expect in terms of aroma, which is always good. But yeah, without further ado then, as I always say, just take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma, but without further ado, let's get stuck into this beer. So this one is the Pink Lemonade IPA, a collaboration beer between Evil Twin Brewing, Danish gypsy brewer that are now American, and Omnipollo, one of the gypsy brewers in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, Skal. Yeah. I have to say, that's pretty damn nice. It's, you know, it's a straight up IPA. You know, I was expecting this one. I have to admit, when I got this one, I was expecting it to be one of these kind of sour beers where they've used lactobacillus or Brettanomyces or something like that. But you can tell with this, it's a straight up, it's basically a straight up IPA, but they've just added the fruit to it. But with the tartness that this beer has, you can tell they've added quite a lot of lemon and raspberry to it, and it works out really nicely actually. I do like that little tart edge that this beer has. So yeah, middle of the palate as you'd expect with this one. You can detect that sort of pale malt base. It does almost have a little bit of a lactosey character to it. In the middle of your tongue, there's a tiny little bit of a biscuity sweetness. It's not quite a rich caramel, although it does mellow out a little bit that way as the flavour goes on. But really, I think it's mainly a kind of biscuity sweetness that's coming out of this one. Yeah, I don't think I'm really describing that flavour in the middle of this one. It almost comes across as lactosey, and in the aftertaste, you'll see what I mean. It just has that it's almost a little bit like that kind of oaty flavour that you get from the New England IPAs, which is quite interesting. Maybe it does have a little bit of that New England element to it. It is brewed in Boston after all. It does almost have a little bit of that kind of oaty, lactosey thing that you associate with that New England style IPA. I do like that. That malt base that it has is really nice. And definitely some nice kind of biscuity character in there as well. The hops in this one are quite interesting too. At the back corners of the palate, you definitely get a little bit of that. I'm not sure if it's quite piney resin, but it's got that nice kind of almost piney, dank, floral, aromatic kind of character. As you go forward along the sides of your tongue, there's a nice sort of spicy, floral, aromatic note. As you go round the front curve of your palate, there's a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy thing, but you can definitely feel the way that they've added the fruit to the beer. As I always say in my reviews, you can always tell when it's fruit that's been added to the beer because the fruity notes will come out on the edge of your palate instead of just behind the front curve of the tongue. So with that little oily bubble that always comes out behind the very front of your palate there, with this one, it's definitely a kind of sherbety lemon, I think, that's coming out of this. Yeah. It's almost a little bit kind of mango-y as well. I do wonder if there's a little bit of citra in this one, because it does have a little bit, it's almost got a little bit of that grapefruity base, but then it becomes a little bit more sort of mango-y on top. Maybe even a wee bit of tangerine or something, which could be mosaic, which is interesting. You can definitely pick up that sort of IPA base within this beer, but then the lemons and the raspberries really mix together quite nicely around the edge of your palate. In terms of Pink Lemonade though, I'm not overly sure that it tastes that close to it. It's like a really nice IPA with a little bit of Pink Lemonade in it. So maybe I need to take one of my favourite kind of New England IPAs and mix up a little bit of Pink Lemonade. Just put a little bit in as an experiment and see how it comes across and see if it comes out anything like this. But it's a really nice beer. I'm just not so sure. If you think this one's a Pink Lemonade IPA, I was expecting like a sour beer that was that had a lot of those flavours in it, almost kind of like a Berliner Weiss, if you like, with a little bit of that kind of pink lemonade element to it. But this one, it is more of a kind of New England IPA with raspberry and lemon added to it, if that makes sense. It's just not quite what I was expecting, but it has turned out really nicely. So to both breweries, a thumbs up on this one. It's a really nice beer, just not quite what I was thinking it was going to be, but that's not a bad thing. When you get surprises like that, they can often be quite good. But I do like how that flavour comes across. It's like a New England IPA with some of these nice kind of sour tart fruit elements in it, but really nicely done. If you get the chance to try this, have a go at it, because it's certainly a really interesting one. I think this is the first time I've come across a New England IPA where they've actually added fruits to, although in fairness, one of the beers that I reviewed from Trillium, not sure if the video will have published at this time yet, incidentally, but I think that beer had sort of Pinot grapes added to it, which was really interesting. So this is probably the second time that I've tried that. But in terms of the mouthfeel, this one then, mid-bodied, carbonation is quite smooth. It's got a little bit of an oily mouthfeel, but there's a good bit of smoothness in there as well. As I say, it's got that New England IPA kind of element to it. There's a good little bit of tart sharpness to it, some hoppy bitterness, but not too much, and some nice kind of fruity, juicy character as well. But overall, it's a really quite nice beer, and I'm glad that I got to try it. So a big thumbs up to both breweries on this one, and it's one that really has kind of tested my palate, and as a beer tuber, that is what you want. So try this beer if you get the chance. I'm going to see if I can review the kind of original lemonade beer, or the regular lemonade version of this at some point in the future. But this was another one I got from Durham Wines, or from Durham Market Wines, so make sure you check out the link to their Facebook page in the description below. But a really nice beer, and I recommend you have a go at it. So yeah, this one was the Pink Lemonade IPA, a collaboration between Omnipollo from Sweden and Evil Twin Brewing, originally from Denmark, but now from Brooklyn in New York in America. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comments section below. Do let me know your favourite beers, both from Omnipollo and from Evil Twin, and if I've not reviewed them already, I will try and get round to it. But thank you again for watching. Until the next time, like, subscribe, share, social media, all this kind of thing. But I will catch you guys very soon. The Pink Lemonade IPA from Omnipollo and Evil Twin Brewing. Slàinte just now.